Um, Look, at the beginning, so I'm a distinguished visiting professor here at Ryerson. And what that means is, I can tell you what distinguished me. Oh, hi. Hi. What's your name?
Anushka.
Anushka, how do you do?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. Better to see that smile of yours. It just lights up the room. So distinguished visiting professor at Ryerson. Distinguished is wonderful, grand word. It means essentially not real. I'm not a real professor. I don't have a real course. I don't teach real classes. I don't mark papers, and I don't get real money. So I have a whole other life, and my working life has been, almost since the time I left university, kind of working on big social change projects and then trying to figure out how to make change and what we're trying to change. As Bob mentioned in passing, I helped to create, it's a bold claim, but I helped to create the field of social innovation. There was no field of social innovation. There's always been innovation in the social sector. But back in 1999, and I was doing some work with a big corporation, with DuPont Canada, and I was intrigued by that culture that seemed to be very capable of taking on big innovation challenges. And I kept thinking to myself, if that problem-solving culture existed in the political and social domain where I was doing all of my work, we would be a lot farther. So I became interested in cultures that were capable of working on complex challenges to produce consequential outcomes. And I still am. Now, at the beginning of the summer, I gave a talk at the University of Toronto in which I made a passing remark. It was a conference on social innovation at U of T. And I made a passing remark in my comments in which I said that thinking about social change and social innovation without thinking about philosophy is as boneheaded as thinking about medicine without thinking about anatomy. And my talk wasn't about that. It was just a throwaway remark, but I guess that's what I'm going to try to talk about today and see if I really have anything meaningful to say about it. It's kind of like an essay. Are any of you familiar with Montaigne, Michel de Montaigne? You should all read Michel de Montaigne. He's the greatest. But you know, he talked about, in French, so he talked about essayer, to try. It's not something you get marked on. It's just you're going to sort of let your thoughts run and see where they go. So that's what I'm going to do. And now that I spilled coffee on my notepad, when the ink is running, we'll really see where they run. I want to talk to you guys. I want to take you guys seriously. And if I'm not succeeding at that, push me, because I hope that this will turn into a dialogue. And I hope I'll say some things that are provocative enough that you'll want to question me and push back. But I want to take you seriously as people who are going to be leaving the university, whatever you do. Become a philosopher, become a lawyer, become an activist, become a business person. It doesn't really matter. You are leaving here to enter the front lines of a world that is in the midst of profound change. And the challenge of change, whether you choose it or not, will be something that will characterize all of your lives. Your generation, this moment in history, I don't think I'm saying anything radical to say that this is one of the pivotal moments in history. The challenges of climate change and sustainability, of social and economic inequalities, of resource depletion, of the combination of globalization and tribalization that we're witnessing right now, I think means that this is just one of those moments that happens in history where everything changes. The changes are profound and deep, and they're not all manageable or controllable by us. Let's not imagine that we can just be innovative and get to control the world. The world is always beyond our control, but we have some agency in the world, and I think that's one of the interesting philosophical points. We are neither entirely subjects nor agents of the world, but we're participants in its unfolding. But this is just one of those fraught moments in history where so much is going to change. And what is going to change are entire ways of living. And ways of living that mean economic and social relationships, identity, who we think we are, what we think we're for, what our possibilities are going forward, how we actually think the world works. All of these things are changing. This happens in moments of deep historical change. Whole new worldviews emerge. And it seems to me this is a central aspect of philosophy and of the courage and curiosity of philosophical inquiry. Not everybody has it, but all of you who are in this room obviously do. Much of the world would prefer to be certain or clever, would prefer to be adamant in its points of view. Of course, we can all think about that, what's going on in the US and Trump, but just think about activists with whom we agree. Just think about everybody who is so sure of what they know, as opposed to what has always struck me about philosophical inquiry, which is maybe the way that things seem on the surface and maybe the way that we're thinking about things is open to, will reveal more as we pursue that incredibly courageous human, intellectual, and I think heartfelt journey to the heart of things. I don't know that philosophy is anything more than trying to be part of that journey to the heart of things. I think it's always important. I think, I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name, but I think that, like you said, that is a human pursuit in and of itself and an important one. Sorry, is it Darius? Yeah, sorry, Darius. I think it's really important. I think that, and I think this goes, look, I've just come back from Africa where I'm spending some time with Maasai people who, I feel very lucky. I've been adopted into the Maasai tribe, but there you have a African tribal people, but philosophical inquiry. I mean, they may not be reading Hume and Kant. They might not be thinking about our canon. But what it means to be alive, what it means to be fair, what it means to be in a social relationship with others, and what it means to be in relationship to the fundamental mysteries of the world. The older I am, the more I travel through the world, the more I see that this is something that cuts across cultures. We come to different ideas and interpretations, but I think it's fundamental. I also think that it is not something that has been deeply enough part of the field that I'm proud to be part of, social innovation. I think that social innovation has actually been joking around in the shallow end of the pool, obsessed with its own cleverness, following ideas, romantic ideas that innovation looks like Silicon Valley, that we're pursuing ideas of innovation as though it's all startup culture and that we can hack our way out of any social problem that we're in. And I just want to say to you, as we're talking, I don't want to pander to you in that regard. You're young, you don't know everything, you don't know how to solve the world, and believe me, there's not a hack that's going to solve all the problems in the world. However, your commitment to real philosophical thinking can help to deepen this field of social innovation, which is, I think, instrumental to our ability to have intentionality and insight, and informed insight, and I would say even moral, not only moral clarity, but moral courage in terms of shaping a future is centrally important and absolutely not part of the social innovation conversations that I'm part of all the time. We somehow have this idea that, gee, the world is, it's really good to be really caring. It's really good to affiliate with some cause that makes us feel good about ourselves, whether it's poverty or climate change or some form of social or environmental injustice. And that, though we would never say it out loud, the rest of the world as being idiotic, and it's just waiting for our cleverness to come along and figure it out. No, we live in a amped up, speeded up, identity-hungry world where unfortunately I think both the word social and the word innovation has now got attached to identities as though it's a cool thing. But with everything speeded up and time horizons collapsed as we see in government, the capacity to think deeply about the problems that will affect how we live today and tomorrow, the real capacity for that kind of thinking has shrunk. So that's why I think that philosophy is incredibly important, essential in the work of social change, and I cannot tell you how delighted and actually honored I am to be in a class of fourth-year students here at Ryerson who've decided that they want to be serious about philosophical thinking. I'm not a philosopher, and I took a course or two in philosophy at U of T, so I'm not going to try to talk to you about philosophy, except I'll tell you a joke and two stories and see if that gets at some dimensions of philosophy. The first is probably well known even by you, because it was David Foster Wallace, the great writer, gave a convocation speech, and he started with this joke. There's an old fish, and he sees two young fish swimming by, and he says, "Hi boy, how's the water?" Two young fish swim by, and one turns to the other and says, "What the hell is water?" It's best I can tell, what philosophy is an attempt to answer that question.